The Millers lived until 1912 in the comfortable frame house on South Clinton Street, where Elizabeth was born. Theodore liked the location near the center of town. Florence walked to the local shops beneath the flowering cherry trees and Japanese maples that lined the street. An Italian organ grinder played his spirited tunes outside their door, and the fife and drum band passed, waving banners on the 4th of July. After the birth of Elizabeth's younger brother, Eric, in 1910, her parents talked of moving to the country. Wherever they lived, Elizabeth always saw Eric as her playmate, a loyal sidekick ready to do her bidding. The Millers arranged to limit their family to the 3 children, another choice thought by some to show a progressive spirit. Yet each parent's marked attachment to the child of the opposite sex struck some of their contemporaries as unusual. Florence preferred her firstborn. She dressed John in girls' clothing and tied bows in his hair until he was 6, when she reluctantly agreed to trim his curls. A year after, Theodore had himself cut Elizabeth's long, fine hair and commemorated the event with before and after photographs. In a kind of reversed symmetry, Elizabeth often wore boys' clothing. Theodore so obviously preferred his daughter that John, not unreasonably, formed the opinion that girls had all the luck. They won their father's attention and didn't have to do chores. The 2 older children would share little except a passionate interest in machinery and what the family called their strong-mindedness. In most respects, they were opposites. From an early age, Elizabeth disdained dolls, except when required to pose with one for Theodore, who used his camera to document her childhood on all occasions. He photographed himself holding John while both watched Florence with 3-week-old Elizabeth, his little girl, swathed in stiff white garments, Elizabeth as a starched daisy, himself holding her aloft at 6 months, Elizabeth and her daddy, John and his sister eating in their pelts on a hot day. No one thought much of his nude photos of Elizabeth at 18 months, although it must have been hard to make her sit still on her wicker chair for both profile and rear views. The family albums hold many more shots of Theodore's daughter, all meticulously captioned in purple ink, than of his sons. Theodore had many more occasions for picturesque shots after their move in 1912 to Cedar Hill Farm, 4 miles south of town. The property, which covered 165 acres, became a vast playground for the children. They lived first at Cedar Hill Cottage, then in a 2-story frame house. Over the next 8 years, as Elizabeth grew up, her father enclosed the porch, added rooms, and built a playhouse behind the house with a bronze bell in the belfry to summon the children. Theodore's code worked according to birth order: 1 ring repeated 3 times for John, 2 rings for Elizabeth, 3 for Eric. Once Theodore gave John his own tools, the playhouse became John's shop. The younger children watched him build a locomotive that ran on a track equipped with a switch to avoid collisions, and that had 8 brass wheels that Theodore had specially cast. They sustained skinned knees from the inevitable wrecks as the train raced on its wooden tracks down the hill behind the house, across the flat land and up the opposite hillside. Until John transferred his love of trains to airplanes, all 3 looked forward to their future as engineers. Elizabeth habitually played boys' games. Delighted when John allowed her to ride his train, she developed such an interest in locomotives that she disappeared one day when the family was about to begin a train trip. Her parents worried until the conductor appeared to explain that she had gone to inspect the engine. Much of her play involved tinkering with things and taking them apart out of curiosity, a trait encouraged by her father. With John and Eric, she built a water wheel beside the stream that ran through the property, where they picnicked, swam, and picked watercress in the summer. She learned the rudiments of photography from Theodore, who gave her a box camera, at a time when Kodak ads enticed young customers to adopt the brownie as the latest and most creative kind of toy. She climbed trees, camped, went riding and fishing with white bows in her flyaway blonde hair, her mother's attempt to keep her from being a tomboy.